Welcome to JBL Bites, where we say the things that other restaurant owners don't want to say out loud. With me is my co-host of 40 years experience, Hudson. Myself, 25 years experience, John, in the restaurant business. And today we're touching on the topic of...
Why am I not busy when everybody else around me seems to be?
Oh, is that the one we picked for today? Okay. Why we're not busy.
Right?
And everyone else around me is. Okay. So we're referring to the drive-by, as I like to call it.
Drive-by. Yeah, that's a...
Do you know what the drive-by is?
I sort of know, but it's a bad habit to be in, right?
Yes. So the drive-by would be you're slower on a whatever, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and night where you expect to be busy, and you jump in your car and you start driving around to look in your competitors' windows to see what's going on there, see how busy they are. The biggest mistake, faux pas that you can make in this business being an owner. It's so bad for your psyche. There's nothing positive that can come out. You cannot learn anything from looking in your competitors' windows because A, if they're busy, you're just going to be mega fucking depressed because you're not, right? And then if they're slow, what does that mean? What is that telling you? Yeah. The only thing it's telling you is validating your reason for driving around, and that is misery loves company. And you just want to know that somebody else is going to help validate your place being empty, is basically what it comes down to. There's no positive gain from doing the drive-by. And every restaurant owner does it, including myself. I have 25 years later, I'll have a slump and I'll still get in that car and then go back to my manager and be like, oh, so-and-so is busy. This one's busy. Drives them fucking crazy because they know it, that it's not the right thing to do. There's nothing they can do about whatever so-and-so is busy. There's nothing that they are doing wrong if I've properly trained them and they're doing what my brand is supposed to be doing. There is nothing positive, but I just can't help myself.
What is that? I'm gonna
go look at everybody.
What is that obsession? Like, where do you think that comes from?
I just think it's a negative. We're just prone, human nature, to the negativity. To we're down. Misery loves company. You know what? I want to know that somebody else is failing too. But there's nothing. But the ironic thing is, there's nothing positive that can come out of it. Even if you see that they're failing as well. What are you doing with the information? Like, that's kind of been 25 years later of being in business now. It's kind of been one of my newer things. Is like, what are you doing with the information? And it really is very important. And it's something that as a young entrepreneur or restaurant owner, you really should adopt that early on. I wish I did. Because there is so much that you can, and again, like I said, it's human nature. There's still times where I'll be driving from my other location to this location. I'll drive by Placer Busy and I'll come in here and I'm like, oh, so-and-so had a full patio outside. We don't have one. What's going on? Like, it's just human nature to do it. But the more you can kind of interject into your repertoire of what am I doing with the information, not just regards to that, just in general, it becomes a very useful tool because then now you're looking at things like, okay, so for example, you're a wine guy, right? I'm sure you have people asking you on a regular, how's business out there?
Oh,
what's
gosh.
going on?
All the time. I have restaurants that ask me, pretty much weekly. There was a guy at a restaurant on the main line. He's since sold it and whatnot, but he used to ask me every time I would stop in there and he would say, Hudson, what's going on out there? How's everybody doing? And then I would, I think everything, and you would just tell them. I would be the barometer, and I'm good at that. I'm good at giving
exactly. You're a
people
barometer.
real
so
feedback as far as what's going on. But then what always got me is he had an obsession with a particular restaurant.
Yeah, see, that's
sort of his direct competition, and maybe not even direct, because there were a lot of restaurants. If you've driven up and down the main line, the main line, by the way, is this corridor that runs from Center City, Philadelphia, all the way out to Lancaster, if you want to argue that. But he would be out there on the main line, and lots of restaurants are there. But he had this one place that he felt and sort of wrongly in my opinion, but he believed that was his place, that was his mark. And he would say, what's so-and-so doing? What are they doing? You know what they were doing? They were having a dishwasher installed in the middle of the podcast.
Fucking sick. Are we picking up all the banging? Is it? It's faint?
Yeah, it's faint.
It's faint?
We'll
good.
We'll press on.
Yeah, we'll press on.
We'll
Yeah.
keep
Life
calm and
of a
carry on.
restaurant owner.
That's right. So he would focus on this one particular place, and he would, Hudson, but what is so-and-so doing? And I'm like, well, Rob, they're doing this, or, and so on. And I'm like, here's roughly what they're doing, but it's not you. You're a different place. You're not the same. You're not right next door. But it was one of those things that it always struck me as a little odd that he was so obsessed with that one particular restaurant as far as what it was.
And so that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about with regards to what do you do with the information.
Right.
Right? Because now, environmentally, somebody's asking you, well, what's going on out there? And so that's a whole.
Right.
And it's, okay, well, if you come back to me and say, yeah, wine sales were down, things have been quiet,
Yeah,
everybody's kind of complaining. So,
Everybody's
okay,
missing. Right.
So then it's not just me. It's, you know what I mean? So now we're looking at, changing, yada, yada, maybe a different special, a menu price, happy hour or whatever. But now you start asking about the guy up the street and you're telling him, yeah, they're busy, this and that. And the next thing you know, you're fucking, repainting the fucking restaurant. You're changing the decor. You've got different music on. I'm going to modify my name. I'm going to have this special. That's not going to work. There's nothing good that's going to, come out of that. So that's where I'm saying that kind of monitoring what do I do with the information is so important, because otherwise you just start filling up your own internal database with garbage that's just not going to be productive or helpful, at least in my opinion or my experience.
No,
anyway.
I think that's very true. I mean, it's when we talk about competition and the business overall out there, it's good to be aware of it, but the most important thing is keep your own side of the street clean, right? Like, know what it is that's going on out there is fine in a broad spectrum way. But much like anything, if you focus on what's going on inside your four walls, that's better time spent than spending the time driving around, going and looking and seeing what so-and-so's doing.
Yeah, again, it lends to that, what do I do with the information?
Yeah.
So all right. Yes, everybody's slow. So now you start evaluating, okay, let me evaluate my business. How do I elevate things to...
How do I attract more guests in my doors?
So what am I going to do to be a little bit different in this environment to get a little bit more of the pie? You know what I mean? So I'm sure you have this where people come in they're like, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Like, well, I have this wine special. I have this program. I can bring this in. I'll guarantee that you get this. Nobody else will. Things of that nature that kind of separate you
from everybody else.
Right.
And you have to do that in the restaurant, in inside your restaurant, as much as anybody else does. But I think it's incumbent upon, every restaurateur and every business operator, in general, I guess, to make sure that their brand, no matter what it is as clear
and intact
as it can possibly be.
So basically, don't start running a fucking Taco Tuesday night if you're a fucking chicken parm place.
There you fucking go.
I mean, and I see it over and over. I can tell immediately the desperation of a place by looking at their specials.
Oof.
High-end restaurant all of a sudden is running, quiz night or trivia night or music trivia. They all reek of desperation, and it's not going to fix the problem. And so again, it lends to that mantra of what am I going to do with the information?
Right.
Be careful what you're asking, because some of it is going to cause you to spiral in a way that you don't need to be spiraling.
Is there? I mean, you've had 25 years in the restaurant side of the business, in addition to the other business that you were, pretty successful in. But, is there one thing that you would say to look at when you don't see your sales numbers hitting the numbers that you want consistently? One night's a blip, but when you don't see things making what they should be consistently, and you see numbers start to slip, is there one thing that you say that you look at? Is it a specific thing?
The short answer to that is no.
Really?
No, because there is myriad issues that could arise. So, first and foremost for me is hospitality, hospitality, hospitality. Obviously,
Right.
the food needs to be good, but if you're not doing good food, you shouldn't be open. So, I'm presuming or assuming that the business that we're speaking of is doing what they need to do properly from the kitchen, right? Their food is coming out. Their menu makes sense. Their brand makes sense, right? They're keeping the scope of their menu items within the brand. They're executing it in a proper way, right? And they're keeping the quality of their product, because now they're starting to struggle a little bit,
Sure.
right? Obviously, if this is a question. So now we're not limiting the quality that we're putting out. So we're maintaining quality, we're maintaining production in a timely fashion to the consumer. We're making sure that the menu is staying within brand, right? And we're getting the food to the consumer timely, hot, it's good. All that is working, right? So that's the assumption in this
particular scenario.
So from there, it comes down to hospitality, hospitality, hospitality. And it's from everything to making that first time guests feel like they were regular, to how do I retain that person, getting them back a second time, making sure that second time they come a third time, that third time then they become a regular. And that's kind of that's the idea, you know? One is exploration. Two is,
Enjoyment and continued exploration. Sure.
curiosity.
Right.
3 times, you got them.
Right.
You know what I mean? You execute 1, 2, and you execute on that third time, you've got them. So now you have that retention, right? So now, how do you get that retention where they're coming at, whatever barometer of time you need? So if it's, I need that customer once a month, twice a month. I need that customer, every other month or once a quarter. You know what I mean? It's maintaining that. So that's why I say there's no short answer to what you're saying. I think all of it comes into play. So assuming that the productivity is there, then the next thing would be the hospitality. Then the hospitality then becomes the retention. How do I get that person to come back? And then from there, it's marketing. How do you get that first person coming in the door? What marketing works in your area? Are you a social media driven person? Are you a restaurant? Are you an email marketing restaurant? Are you a word of mouth? Are you grassroots? Are you how is it you're going to let people know about your place and get them in the door? So our Westchester location, Westchester, PA, we're very big with social media. We have a great social media marketing that fills the doors up. But our Bryn Mawr location, which is down, kind of a Halty-Tawny main line area, there's not as much of the social media aspect. So that becomes a little bit more challenging. So it's how are we going to get people in the door? So that we kind of took as a grassroots approach, but knowing
That's more like a neighborhood kind of
place, so, it's like a cheers, what I mean? Everybody knows
Right.
your name kind of thing coming in there. But that is a longer build. That's a slow, longer build. So now you need to make sure that you can maintain quality, productivity, everything going out over a period of time while paying your bills to get to the point where you have built enough retention and, a period of coming back that meets, whatever, your bills are, your in money versus your out money.
Right. Is there one thing that you think's maybe the biggest blind spot in the restaurant business?
One thing that I think is the biggest blind spot. I mean, I'm not going to say one thing that I think is the biggest blind spot. I'm going to say what I think is a big blind spot, and that is owners not being present.
Sure.
So I think that you can't have your finger on the pulse. You can't know what is going on. You can't build. Now, if you have multiple locations, right? I'm going to clarify this, because if you're somebody with multiple locations,
Let's take both.
and they're building, right? you're hoping that you have now kind of delegated authority and responsibility to enough people that they're facilitating your vision, right? And so now you're just kind of checking in on them and making sure that that is being maintained, right? Now you're opening a new location. That new location requires your attention, you to be there, right?
Right.
So if you're serving multiple locations, I still think that, don't start resting on the money coming in from the other ones and I'm just going to grow. You got to be there and you got to keep building that, kind of delegation thing. That's part of my problem right now with growth. I want to grow. I don't have the infrastructure in place to grow, so I'm trying to build that now, right? So I have multiple locations, but I want more, right? So I feel my brand is ready to run, but I need the financial backing, all right? Because you don't want to take it all on yourself, you know what I mean? All the
really
time,
hard.
Unless you're somebody that has a bank account that
Right.
big. So you want financial backing. That's not a bad
not an
thing.
if,
Yeah,
right.
You want to have that
Sort of
security. And then you want to have the delegation in place that that when you go to open that other place, you have people that are facilitating your vision, as I said, and you don't have to worry about that. Right? So that's that scenario.
How do you give, and let's take that for 1 second. How do you give those individuals training's one thing, but let's assume
Training's everything.
Right. But
not one thing.
Right,
Training is everything.
Training is everything. But let's assume you've trained somebody as much as you could possibly train somebody. They can do every job they feel. How do you get them to totally buy in on your vision and give them enough of a sense of pride of it's their place to take it on like it's their place, so that if you grow, let's say you grow to 12 Avalons or what have you, that you can do that and not have to be in any of them, because at that point you can't be in every single restaurant every single day.
So it's a slippery slope with that. The immediate answer that everybody wants to go is to give them a percentage, make them a partner, managing partner, ownership, whatever. The problem with that is the vast majority of these people are they don't have skin in the game, right?
I think you need to have money in it.
Right.
Of your own, not you just earned.
Yeah.
I think you
So
need to put up
now,
some dollars.
if you can get somebody to put skin in the game, it changes everything.
Right.
Now they have exactly what you're looking for.
Yep.
They need that return, right? Or they're going to lose their money. But that's far and few between that have that scenario work. So the next step is, how do you hold them accountable, but not put them in a position to not be able to pay their bills? Because what happens is you say, well, I'm going to give you $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year, and then you're going to get a profit check, right? But if there's no profit, which many restaurants do not have profit, or it takes a long time to build profit, if you don't have that profit, now you have a slave working for $40,000. Well, what are they going to do?
Right.
They're going to walk away.
Right.
They have no skin in the game. They have no interest. They have no reason to stay. Right? So you have to find this balance of giving them enough money to live, but giving them a reason to be,
to
excited
strive for the
yes.
best.
You also have to find people that are hungry. And, this is not an easy task. I'm not arbitrarily saying, hey, just hire somebody who's hungry. They're not easy to find.
Right.
And so when you find somebody, whether they're a server, a bartender, a food runner, I've seen it in expediters, there's just something you see that they have it, they want it, they're hungry, they're going to go after it, they're smart, their common sense factor is good. There's a gleam in their eyes. It's just like, I want to be a restaurant owner. I want to make money. I want to, whatever it is. You then need to take that person and really cultivate them. And it may take time, but that's your key, because hiring those people, very, very difficult.
Right. You've
They're
had a
not
couple
out
people,
there.
over the number of years that I've known you, you've had a couple of people who've really been like that, who've I've felt are like, just sort of like rock stars in their own right, but just need that little push to get a little bit further. And then if they actually embrace the fact that they're being pushed, that maybe they launch
then
forward.
Yes, but the other kind of problem is my fault, where we're kind of not 100% ready for it, or we weren't. I feel we are now, right? But at the time, we weren't ready for it. So now
What do?
there's a burnout factor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're dumping so much on them, but there's really not that growth. And then so now you can't take it to the next level. So they're either going somewhere else to get what they want, or they kind of get a burnout thing. And you got to remember, the restaurant business generally is not a choice. It's kind of foisted on you, and then you run with it, you love it, you whatever. But at the same time, you can go Uber. You can say, I'm gonna cut lawns. I'm gonna do whatever. There's plenty of opportunities out there to be entrepreneurial in some way.
Sure.
So you gotta. The timing is really important.
Right.
Finding the right people, timing. I guess the point to it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And I have had a lot of good people come through my organization, and just the timing wasn't there, and I lost out.
Have you ever, just looking at the business and perspective, have you ever just purely blamed the market, just whatever's going on out there, and not looked inside as to what you're doing? And how did you stop yourself from doing that?
Well, environmentally, there is. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, it's definitely a thing. So, I mean, there are so many factors that control our business, from holidays to weather to emotion, probably one of the biggest ones. All right. I mean, the holidays are kind of they're a guarantee. Whether it's a holiday is going to be busy or whether it's a holiday is going to be slow, you kind of know going into it historically, this is going to work, this isn't going to work, this is going to be busy, it's not going to be busy, this is where we need to do a promotion, not do a promotion. Where you kind of get caught with your pants down is the emotional aspect. 9/11 would be a perfect example. So for those that remember that day, and subsequently the weeks after that,
months, the years.
Months. I mean, the country was at they were glued to their TVs. They, going out to eat is a, euphoric experience. People go out to feel good. You know what I mean? They get those endorphins going. They want to have a drink. They want to eat some good food. They want to sit at a bar and socialize, or they want to be with their friends, or they want to be romantic on a date. But there's a motivation to feel good to go out. So now if you're in a turbulent time, right, you just feel guilty about going out and enjoying yourself.
I never thought about that.
So that's, that drives us more than people realize. But when there's, when you have an election going on, our last election, look how divided and things were with that. It was so bad that, we had to have conversations with our bartenders with regards to shutting down any kind of political conversation at bars because it was that volatile. I have customers that left because we didn't interject and stop somebody from one side or the other from making their point and arguing. And it was so extreme. They're like, well, I'm never going there again. You didn't say anything to that person, so clearly you stand behind their views, and we won't go there again. And this is more than once.
Right.
This is not like like a one time.
Especially with everything going on today, it doesn't matter where you are. Everybody's incensed about everything.
It's crazy. So, before you spend the time looking in the windows of
other places,
as to why they are so busy and you're not, you need to look at all these factors. Where is your kitchen? Where is your quality? Where is your price point? What is the marketing? How is the hospitality? Is there anything environmental going on? And then you can ask your purveyors and other people, but you just got to make sure that you're going after information that makes sense and that you have a clear cut, this is what I'm going to do with this information once I get it.
Right. There's a little bit of myopia that I think comes along too.
Myopia?
I know. That comes along with places like we've talked, and there might be a place where I told you the one night I came in here and I was here with a winery friend of mine, and we had great drinks at the bar. You came back from another thing.
That was Sean Miner.
Right? Sean Miner. So you came back from another event that you were doing, stopped and hung out with us for a little bit, and we left and we went up the street, because you were winding down, and went up the street. And another spot was expected to be very busy and just like ghost town. And so, I think to some degree, and I asked you that night, and you're like, we're not that busy. And I talked to you, I think I sent you a text like the next morning. I'm like, I don't know what you think you were saying where you were not that busy, but you were the only place that still had people in it after 10 o'clock at night.
But I have a number. So I'm now 25 years in. I'm not looking. Listen, like I said, I'll drive around. I'll drive past somebody. I'll beat my staff up on a night that's slow or whatever. But like, guys, they're busy. We're not busy. What's going on? But at the end of the day, I stopped looking at the daily number. I now look at the weekly number. And then I take the weekly number with a grain of salt because now I want to know what the monthly number is. And then at the end of the day, I want to know what the quarterly number is. And so it's like I have a number that I have to achieve. So you had mentioned about, I don't know if it was in this podcast or the last one episode that we did, you were talking about corporations, corporate business, right? Yeah. So a corporate business, they have a number in mind every quarter. So they're like, we want 12% return this quarter.
Here are our projections.
And they know 30 to 40 days in, if they're going to get that 12% or 15% or 20%, whatever their number is, that they're like, this is what we want to get. These are the promotions that we are running. There's a number that they need to do every single day. So that's more my mindset now. It's, I don't panic until I see the monthly or the quarterly, right? The monthly will start to get me a little bit like, whoa, like, hey, we really need to make some changes next month. And the quarterly would be enough to make me be like, hey, fucking, I'm throwing some red flags here. This is not good. But the daily, I don't look at the daily as a barometer as to what is, imminent danger, but I do look at the daily number as an expectation of this is what my number needs to be. So yes, maybe you were in that particular night, my expectation was $12,000, in sales, and I was at $9,000 in sales. Just whatever, throwing a number out there.
Sure, just make it.
But then that's we're slow. I'm not gauging it anymore by the energy at the bar, the people that are around, whatever.
Right. Because
I can have a $25,000 Sunday that never feels crazy busy because we're open from, 10 in the morning until, whatever time. You know what I mean? And then I can have a $25,000, $30,000 Thursday when we're only open for dinner, but we're just jam-packed the whole time. Right. So, again, just throwing out numbers, not saying that these are numbers that anybody needs to be doing to survive, but I'm just trying to give like an example.
Right.
So, for you to say, for me to say to you, I wasn't that busy tonight, and for you to say to me, you're busier than other people in town. I don't give a fuck what the other people in town are doing. I may break my staff's balls when I come in here as a barometer for them to be like, hey, you need to pick it up.
Look at how you've changed.
So, yes, exactly. But it's more, I have an expectation. So, again, what do you do with the information?
What is the one thing, John, in your estimation, after all these years, what's the one thing that owners should be looking at every week?
COGS.
Cost of goods.
COGS, and then next will be labor. And the only reason I say labor is because labor's gotten really crazy now. And so, you have to find ways to not eliminate labor, but manipulate labor to make sure that you're able to produce and do what you need to do without hurting the hospitality portion of it, but also to make sure that you're not enabling your staff to, I don't want to use the word lazy, but kind of rest on, I'm only going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to have more people there. So you got to push your staff. You got to find ways to implement kind of procedures that will help cut back the labor. And I would venture to guess the vast majority of restaurants that are having an issue financially are one of two things: lack of business, right? I mean, there's just nothing you can, there's nothing you can do about that, and labor. Labor is a major, major problem right now.
Is there something that you believe that restaurant owners should stop doing immediately?
Panicking.
Panicking
is the worst thing. Panicking makes other problems. You start panic changing, like I said, decor, painting, this, that. I mean, I've done it. I can't tell you how many times I've done it over the years.
Making changes you don't need to make just because you feel like you
making changes that are just going to send, mixed
wrong
messages to people. They're not going to help you. They're not going to benefit. They're not going to bring you anything more. like panicking. That would be the the biggest thing, and then hospitality.
Yeah.
I mean, just hospitality.
Right.
As long as you're delivering the quality product that you need to deliver, hospitality is your biggest thing.
Right.
That's like your foremost. That's what's gonna win things over.
Yeah, we've talked about that. I mean, my definition of hospitality, which I stole from somebody else, obviously, is it's how you make people feel when they're in the building.
Yeah.
It's,
No, I mean,
everything else is
1,000%.
service.
Yes.
Everything else is service, but hospitality, that's how you make people feel when they're in your restaurant.
So
I think that kind of wraps us for today.
I think it does. I think that's going to be it for this episode. So remember, the hardest time is at the beginning. The hardest time is all the time.
All the time.
We'll see you next time on JBL Bites. And I think on that episode, we're going to do great food doesn't matter if the service sucks.
Well, that's for sure.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Hope to see you again. Like, comment, share, all that good shit. I don't know. Subscribe. Is that subscribe?
Subscribe.
Like, comment, share.
Yeah.
Is that all the shit I'm supposed to say?
Something like that.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, this is our second episode today. We got a dish machine being put in.
Right.
I've had quite a few vodkas. I mean, it's
7.
God. This is what are we doing?
Have a great day.
Yes, my friend. And my friend is here. The dish machine guy is here. You need water. He needs water.
the water.
I gotta go, folks. He needs water. This is the restaurant life.
This is the restaurant life.